I'm Tulika. I'm from BITS Pilani, Hyderabad campus, and my project is passive sonars deployment, and in specifically the effective detection of targets using passive sonar. So, the only way of communication in underwater is by sound waves because electromagnetic waves don't travel well. So sound waves is the only way. So in that, if we want to not interrupt the ecosystem or if we want to be stealthy, in that case we use passive sonars. In that we don't emit sound ourselves, but we just detect what is being transmitted by others. So the source may be a ship or it might be a mammal. So that would it would be really helpful if you were to study their migratory patterns or study their other habits as well. So why is this important to do it specifically for the Indian Ocean region and what challenges we face? So the Indian Ocean region is inhomogeneous, and the temperature and salinity varies quite a lot across depth as well as the range. So because of that, the sound speed profile, which is important when you're looking at sound being detected, changes quite a lot. And not just that, but the seabed parameters also affect the propagation of sound. That's because you have factors such as interference and reflections happening at both the top surface of the water channel as well as the bottom surface. So we need all of that data, which is very vital to calculating, and it is very rich when we look at the Indian Ocean region. So currently, to my knowledge, what is being used is applicable the model is applicable to temperate waters and not applicable to tropical waters. So we would like to change that and try to find it for tropical waters. So to find the sound speed profile, we will be using TEOS 10, which is UNESCO's um, latest software, or rather a calculating system, which um, uses, instead of using numerical models, it solves differential equations, which is obviously more accurate, and it also has a higher range that it can that is correct for, that it fits for. So we will find accurate sound speed profile and get data for the seabed so that our transmission loss that we find is accurate. We will have transmission loss because of, well, attenuation factor of the water, attenuation factor of the sea, of the soil, and reflections and interference happen. Yeah, so sound speed profile. So as I said, we used UNESCO's TEOS, and it's a Gibbs seawater specific. It has two models. One is for the ice cap, the tundra region, and the other one is for the seawater that is more applicable to tropical waters. So that is the differential equation that is used. So it takes absolute salinity and conservative temperature, which is better than taking in situation temperatures, because um, to calculate in situation temperatures, first of all, it's harder to do, and second of all, if we don't do it that way, if we were to take the like a specific sample of water out of the situation and then calculate it, it changes certain factors, as in the water expands, so a specific volume changes, which would change this sound speed again. So this takes it very accurately. We get the data for temperature and salinity from Copernicus, which gives a more comprehensive region, as in it gives closer to the coastline so that we can test for shallow waters as well as deep waters. Yes, so this is the sound speed profile that we get for the Arabian Sea region, is when this is for the Bay of Bengal region. The gap here is due to landmass being present. So what I have looked into specifically right now is the Kochi coast, and that is because we had the sediment data present for that region. So if for accuracy, I used that region. So this is the sound speed profile we get for that region. Um, so what is important to for maximizing the probability of detection of a ship? We have multiple factors, and I feel the most prominent factor for that would be transmission loss, among other important things. So um, transmission loss can be measured using various models exist already for it, but the better ones that can be used would be Bellhop and RAM. These are also open source, unlike other software that are available. So we can make changes in them as required for our region. Bellhop is, according to my literature review, is used for deep waters and for higher frequency ranges, whereas RAM is used for shallow waters and lower frequency ranges. This is also going to be tested by us and not just depend on the literature review. To find the transmission loss, we will. So what we are going to do is we have to, as we change from frequency and as we change from region, we have to shift from using RAM to using Bellhop, or from using Bellhop to using RAM. So to do that, we need a specific frequency, like a transition frequency. Like at this frequency, you change the model. So to do that, we need to first see how what resolution it calculates at, so that we get accurate results, and it's not just taking too much time for not too much change in results. So we need a proper convergence plot for every parameter necessary for both the models, and then we will get a computation time versus frequency graph, so that we can find a single frequency transition frequency from there. This is the convergence plots that we got for RAM. I'll just continue just explaining what horizontal and vertical steps mean in the meantime. So horizontal step will mean, so if you have like a certain region, so you have to get a mesh, like a vertical cross section of it, so that you get like mesh points taking the entire range and taking the entire depth. So what should be the size of that mesh? The resolution of that mesh is what we want to look at. So this will be the vertical step. DZ is vertical step. So from my conversions process, it says that around 30 would be good, and yes, around 30 would be good, because you can see a 1 plus minus decimal change here. So that would be, and there is not much change in DR. So we take whatever we have minimum standard deviation for, we will consider that as the step size. So there is a here. So this is the conversions plot that we get for RAM. So as you can see, this is the seabed, considered a bathymetry using the Sansui profile data itself, but it can be refined. So that is what we get. And this is for a lower frequency. This is for a higher frequency. So what happens in shallow regions is that the small region acts as sort of a high frequency cutoff, as a band pass filter for higher frequencies, because of the size of the waveguide and what resonance frequency can be generated. But it is because RAM takes a sediment data which is not available, which is not being considered by Bellhop. It is more accurate for shallow water regions. So this is what we get for a higher frequency. As you can see, the amount of transmission loss changes as compared to previous, which is to be expected as frequency increases. For Bellhop, we have multiple parameters that we have to consider. So Bellhop, what it does is, instead of tracing the entire mesh, entire region, it traces beams. Like it has it that's the physics it uses. It uses different equations. So so the number of beams is an important factor. Then the places where our receivers are placed will also be important in that. So the size of that also matters, and the aperture that we're measuring, like the region which would be affected by the transmitter, also matters. That we can't just take like a 20-degree region by the transmitter and consider that to be the entire region. So we need a convergence for that as well. So from here we get the data for that, and these are all the convergence plots necessary. And this is what we get for Bellhop. This is not for Bellhop. Yes, it is for Bellhop. This is what we get for Bellhop. As you can notice here, the amount of transmission loss is significantly less. But this is not accurate for shallow waters. I will explain in a minute. So this is the equation that we use to calculate transmission loss. So when you have a smaller region that you're calculating for, you assume it to be a spherical. Like when you have a wave being transmitted, you assume it to be a sphere that's being transmitted. The phase waveform is a sphere. But if you're looking at really large distances, you can approximate it to be a cylindrical spreading, because for a very small region and very long range, it's as close to being symmetrical. So for near field, you expect like the spherical transmission loss, you would expect it as you go down by the depth. We are on 32 and like at the furthest point to be 66 decibels something. But this does not consider the amount of attenuation because of the seabed, which is a very, very important factor when it comes to shallow waters. So because bellhop is not too far from the theoretical values, it means that we cannot use it for shallow waters, which is a very important point. Yes, so this is being done just for one region at the moment because of because we don't have enough data for other sedimental regions and lack of time as well. But this can be done for multiple regions so that we get a more comprehensive solution and we can get a better frequency transition frequencies that we require. And not just for shallow water, we also must do it for deep waters. And then the most important question is how do we calculate probability of detection from just this? So everything necessary to calculate the probability of detection can be compressed into a single formula. So the source level, the noise level, the array gain, and the detection threshold are what the factors are of. Noise level is of the ocean itself, like because of other machines being present or mammals being present, you have a certain amount of noise that is present. So source level and array gain and detection threshold are of either our ship or of the ship that is being detected. Um, so we get that data and then we get transmission loss from the models we just calculated. And the sediment data, the bathymetry data, and then, all that can be gotten from MST, which is important because it updates in real time so that our solution remains consistent no matter what. So it can all be compressed into a single number, which can be then treated as a random variable, and then we can get a normal distribution for it, so that we can find the exact probability necessary. So this equation essentially boils down to amount of noise, as in SNR, signal to noise ratio, which is if you have more noise than more signal, means your this becomes lower than 50, which means you can't really detect anything. So 50 would mean it's either a ship or it's just noise. Either a target is present or it's just noise. So the higher the signal excess number, the higher and the more positive the signal excess number, the better it is for us, and that will increase our detection probability. So going forward, we need to. So the models I presented were for 50 hertz and for 900 hertz, but we need to do it for all the frequency ranges, which will be generated by the target we're measuring. So we need to do it for all, and we need to find the computation time models as well, so that we can get a transition frequency and then do it for more regions so that we can verify this and uh, get a more comprehensive look at the solution.